What's good, y'all? A little late start for the stream. Forgive our technical difficulties. Uh, the Knicks weren't the only ones having trouble tonight. It's your boy Prez here for a very sad, arguably predictable. I didn't predict it, but very sad game 5. Post-game rundown for the Strickland. Um, where to begin? What a shit show. It started off bad. It got much worse. In the Strickland Discord before the game, well before the game, in the early afternoon, we were talking about how we thought the Celtics were going to play without Jason Tatum and his super awesome ISO ball and defense and all that stuff. And people had different ideas. Everybody agreed Derek White would be a big part of it. He's been their best player this series. What I had said was that they would lean. Oh, shoot. My headphones crashing out too. So much fun. Give me 1 sec. All right, we back. My fault. um, I was saying I thought the Celtics were going to lean even more heavily into 3-point variance than they did in prior games, where the Knicks were able to somewhat hold their 3-point shooting volume in check. And early on, it's looking like that's exactly what they were doing. In the second half, they got into the paint a little bit more as we completely collapsed as a team. They ended up with 49 threes out of 84 shots. 49 threes out of 84 shots. That's quite a lot of threes. That's let's do the math here. That's about 60% of their attempts from three, which is that held true pretty much every quarter. So they were getting them up quite a plenty, led by Derek White, who went 7 for 13. They also had 26 free throws that they drew. The Knicks had 40 free throws, so it's not like the Knicks didn't get to the line, but the Celtics, we'll get to their free throw grifting, but I think everything they had going stemmed from the three balls, and that was enabled by the Knicks' complete lack of execution. I think the whole game, they were really terrible. Just as good as they executed on defense in the last game, that's how badly they executed. Even well into the second half, we had plays where guys didn't know the coverage, where Cat and Brunson had no idea if they were switching or not. The Celtics were running a little bit more double screens up top, closer to the top of the 3-point line, as well as some closer to the hoop. And it was really mucking up the Knicks. They didn't know when to switch off ball as much, and it was just creating a cascading effect of miscommunications on the Knicks' part. But not all the miscommunications were that complicated. Some of them were really stupid and simple. They lost track of Derek White in transition like a zillion times in the first half. He walked into a lot of his threes. They were not particularly difficult. The off the dribble ones were 1 or 2 dribbles max. Nothing particularly complicated. So, they let a lot of easy shots go up, and they let a lot of good shooters shoot them. What else? The Celtics began in the second quarter. I felt like that's when they began grifting a little bit, particularly Jalen. He had a really good game plan, as annoying as it was. In prior games, the Knicks pretty much dared him to isolate into longer twos and threes, and him not being the highest field player, he took a lot of those bad shots. This game, his strategy was pretty much, if he was isolating, he was going to dribble between his legs like 12 times and then wait for the defender to come up and then just try to like get them hooked or run into them and kind of play it by ear and either fall over or get to the short mid-range where he's actually an excellent shooter historically. And that worked. He made a lot of short middies and he drew a lot of fouls. All right, let's see what y'all got going in the chat here. Y'all were in here early. Some real soldiers. Shout out to y'all. Jalen Brunson recorded more than 4 fouls just 4 times and only fouled out twice this entire season. Jalen Brunson had 5 fouls in 9 minutes. Definitely the worst playoff game I've seen from Jalen Brunson, or tied with that weird, insane free throw grifting game in Detroit early in the series. He, like a lot of the fouls that the Knicks had were bad calls, but honestly, most of Jalen Brunson's fouls to me were just, there was one or two of them that were horrendous calls, but a lot of them were also just straight up stupid and is emblematic of the entire team. I don't know. I feel like you could divide half the fouls into just insane calls, like Jaylen Brown grabbing people in the dick or kneeing people in the dick or bumping people in the dick, or just really stupid touch fouls from behind by guys like Cat and Brunson. So it was a mix of CTE ball, bad execution, lack of adjustments by Tibbs. It was a perfect storm kind of night. Mazzulla thoroughly outcoached him. The Celtics thoroughly out-executed the Knicks on little things and big things. Would consider going Wright or Shamet over Payne at this point. I'm weird about Payne. I feel like every shot he takes is going to go in, but he didn't even shoot today. So if he's not shooting, why you even have him out there? And it's also weird that Tibbs is like randomly okay with Payne at certain points in the game and not others. But then again, Tibbs's substitution patterns in general are weird. Even at the end of our amazing victory the last game, we had some great lineups in the fourth, but a lot of those were arguably because Hart was in foul trouble. So I didn't know whether to believe that those were proactive or reactive subs by Tibbs. So who knows? Related. I know we know the answer, but why did Tibbs wait for the third quarter? Sub so long. Starters were bad in the third. Bad all year. Bad Tibbs game. Yeah, in game 4 in the awesome win, the starters played the whole third. I was certain that he was going to take out Hart in the third because Luke Cornett, who, by the way, was the best player on the court on either team, Luke Cornett was completely ignoring Josh Hart. And with the state of mobility that Kristaps is in, when Kristaps ignores Josh Hart, it's bad for the Knicks. But when Cornett ignores Josh Hart, it's even worse because he can move much better than Kristaps can at this point, both at the rim and on the perimeter, as we saw with his 7 blocks. And unlike game 4, Josh Hart was pretty static. Tibbs and Hart wasn't really doing that much off ball. Tibbs wasn't really making play calls to leverage that. Our freestyle offense wasn't taking advantage of that. And by halfway through the third, they were all checked out, including Hart. Hart was miscommunicating staying still. He hit a bunch of jump shots, which is awesome, but I prefer the game. I would rather he have 5 points or whatever he had in game 4 and a zillion off-ball screens. I would take that every time. Luke Cornett was ignoring him. There were like no instances where Hart was setting flare screens to free up shooters, something we saw a lot in game 4. One thing that always baffles me about NBA coaching is sometimes coaches will do things that work in a playoff series and then they'll go away from it. Joe Mazzulla, games 3 and 4, had a lot of success doing double drag screens versus Cat and Brunson, where he put both of them in an action and then attacked, and then he would just go away for it from stretches of the game. Today, it was Tibbs kind of just like going away from a lot of things that worked. And as we know, Hart, while we know he's somebody who's never lacking in effort and motor, he's not so intuitive that he's going to immediately fly around setting off ball screens and stuff like that. So it's on the coach to utilize that. Games like today make me question the fundamental structure of the team. It's a complete joke how bad they can play for long stretches. Me too, dudes. We've seen the best of Tibbs and the worst of Tibbs within a couple of days of each other. Right? Like, Josh Hart is a unique player. He was used the wrong way today. Karl Towns is a unique player. He was used the wrong way today. He did make a 3-pointer and took a 3-pointer. That was nice. It was a weird situation where like we're still in a position to have great success, right? Like we have 2 chances to win games versus a Tatumless Celtics, which is awesome. And then if we are so fortunate to advance, we have a good chance competing against a very tough Indiana Pacers team. So the questions, the front office, this is a discussion for the offseason, but like this team has gone far. It may go further, and how the front office views that, right? Whether they choose to tinker or whether they choose to make bigger changes in spite of that objective success, right? Is a tough question, but that's why they get paid the big bucks and I don't. So I ain't going to worry about that right now. Why did we just abandon the switch scheme? Yes, great question. We've seen times in this series where Knicks players, particularly Hart and Cat and Brunson, don't switch because the scheme says don't switch. And we've seen times where they're supposed to switch and they just don't fucking switch. It was kind of hard today was such a clusterfuck. It was kind of hard for me to tell if the plan was switched and they just weren't doing it, or if it was more like it was earlier in the series where they would switch everything except Brunson pick and rolls, and then Brunson would hedge and recover. So I don't know. It was really silly. Brown is corny. I'm glad you mentioned that. I fucking hate Brown, man. This guy is so annoying. Like, he's such a clown. And today was like, he had a great stat line and he took advantage of the Knicks every way you can possibly take advantage of the Knicks. But it was, he wasn't making particularly hard shots. He wasn't making awesome reads. He was just kind of grifting and talking shit. And it's frustrating when you allow a cornball to get off like that, and you get sunned by a cornball. Getting sunned by a cornball, generally a bad look. Completely agree. Some of these comments are bad funny. Yo, I wish I could put all of them on the screen. Cornette had a smoke on his lawn chair and Hart was gun shy. Yes, I concur. That's what I was saying. Oh, look at my boy Dante Cook. Oh, Dante with the poster. Hey. All right. I'm rooting for Minnesota out here. I got them on in the background. Yeah, wasted a perfect Mitch game. Let's talk about Mitch. Some slight tweaks to his form, but more importantly, tweaks to his mental. He looked very confident after he hit the first 2. I think he ended up 5 of 5. he was doing the damn thing. He changed the game in the second quarter. I don't know why Tibbs waited 10,000 minutes in the second half to put him in. I know he was gassed, but he had all the halftime. So you would assume that by halfway through the third quarter, it's probably fucking fine to put your best player, which Mitch was today by a large margin, in the game. And Tibbs chose not to. He was doing the damn thing. Uh, he was just on. He was just having a great game. Great game. Him and Deuce by far the best plus minus. Single game plus minus not always accurate, but today it was. So uh, hopefully hopefully Tibbs realizes the advantage that Mitch is and doesn't squander that or underutilize that, because anytime you have a strong advantage in a playoff series and you don't absolutely spam it until the opponent is forced to counter, uh, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And Missoula did try to counter that, by the way. They were Mitch has been great in isolation, right? This whole playoff run. And they tried getting him in isolation, and then instead of scoring on him, setting back screens so that whoever was switched on to Mitch with the ball was actually, their goal was actually not to try to score on Mitch, but to try to draw Mitch out and then leave Mitch behind a screen with no rim protector. So that was a good adjustment from Missoula, and the Knicks didn't really pick up on that. Celtics got some good plays off of that, but it wasn't Mitch's fault. You can't be expecting some center to go around screens like that. Anytime he was doing regular center stuff, he was awesome. Yeah, Towns definitely CTE game, big time, both ends. He had some fouls that I did feel sympathetic for. I feel like half his fouls in this series are just the dumbest fucking fouls, and then the other half are just Jaylen Brown getting him in isolation and then running into him and falling over. His third foul, I think, was like that today. But between that, the miscommunications on defense, he had some really ill-advised. Him and OG had some terrible forced shots calling their own number. You could tell they were just trying to find something for our offense since we didn't have a flow, but this was just bad CTE hoops. If we can't get Towns open for a three, we need to trade him. Again, that's a tough question for the offseason. I've definitely had the same thoughts. Josh Hart, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Shooting that thing with confidence, 7 threes. Again, I prefer the Hart that is shitty in the box score and more impactful on both ends of the floor. I don't think he played anywhere near as good this game as he did last game, because guess what all those jump shots did to the Celtics coverage? Nothing. At no point did they come out and change what they were doing. So it didn't really, all those made shots didn't really they made for points because the ball went in the basket, but it didn't juice our offense anywhere near as much as the off-ball stuff did in the last game. Yo, I seen a couple of people tweet about this from Ashmaster. This man is allergic to closing out in game fives. This is a rivalry going back into my whippersnapper years. This is a long time. He's done it with the Knicks. He's done it before the Knicks. Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I agree. Happy Wednesday. Tom Thibodeau was just asked about sticking with his starters in the third quarter as they went on a run. We are just searching. Yeah, he was searching, and he wasn't finding. That's for sure. Pac playoff points. That's all I will remember. Fucking right, my son. Get the playoff points under your belt. Your time will come. Not this year, but eventually. You got to sprint back. You got to communicate, and we've got to be matched up. If one guy is slow, you're going to get him an open shot. Tibbs didn't have a good game, but he's 100% right here. This is one thing that you can say with confidence was not Tibbs' fault at all. Like, our transition defense was terrible. We lost White in transition consistently. We lost Peyton Pritchard in transition consistently. It was pathetic. It was pathetic. Like, the one guy is killing you, and you can't go up. And it's always exacerbated because our spacing is terrible. We're already a team where our main two scorers, three scorers, arguably, if you include OG, are prone to falling down, whether they make or miss a shot near the rim. And on top of that, you have Hart and McCall and Cat in double big lineups cutting to the rim instead of staying spaced. There was one play where Brunson drove during a double big lineup. Mitch was in the dunker, and Cat just for some reason cut instead of staying spaced. And now you always looking at 3 or 4 guys below the free throw line, and it's bad enough if you play regular transition defense and lose one guy, but if you got 3 or 4 people below the free throw line on a miss or even a make, it's tough sledding versus the Celtics. This team was up 9. That was the very beginning of the game. I don't think we could ever categorize this game as we had it. We had the first quarter and a little bit of the second quarter, but that was it. Brandon Williams. Why does Tibbs wait till opposing teams go on a 10-plus scoring road with the? He's always does that, but that's not even the worst shit. The worst shit is he waits for these game-changing runs, calls a timeout, and then half the time he doesn't change shit. He just keeps the same dudes out there. Damn, Anthony Edwards still on one. That was from Steph range. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Joe Mazzulla on benching Kristaps. He couldn't breathe. I'm pretty sure he has long COVID. It's weird that they don't want to say that. These guys will give you every detail about a surgery that happened 24 or 48 hours after an injury for Jason Tatum, but can't call a spade when it comes to a respiratory illness. It was night and day. The Celtics were up by a zillion, and this guy still had a minus 12, I think, for the game. He's looked terrible all series. Can't really move. He's gassed anytime he has to pump fake and drive. Mazzulla benching him for real was like a serious game changer, both because of how bad he was and how awesome Luke Cornett was. Let's see. Luke Cornett was licking his chops when Hart was on the floor with him. Yeah, man, it changed the game. He was ignoring it, and again, it wasn't like Game 4 where we were taking advantage of it. Games 1 and 2, we didn't particularly take advantage of Hart being ignored until the fourth quarter. So we've only had one game really where we've optimized how you use Josh Hart, which is doing 2 things. It's running more and it's using him in off-ball sets more and handoffs more, not just letting him run a pick and roll. Because you can ignore him in the pick and roll, basically, to be honest. It's not gonna bite you that much. What is he gonna do? Drive all the way to the rim? No, he's not. So Luke Cornett was definitely more. He's probably, of all the players who, if you think of the different centers who have been assigned Hart and ignored him, right? Jalen Duren, Paul Reed, Kristaps, and Luke Cornett. He's easily the most self-aware and court-aware of all 4 of those players. He's also probably Uh, the biggest and most mobile, arguably, on defense. There's been times where he's straight up stonewalled Mikal Bridges. There's also been times where Mikal has cooked him, but like it's usually with hard shots, fadeaways, right? Not Mikal blowing by him or anything like that. Um, so he finds a really good balance of when I'm gonna ignore you, I'm gonna ignore you, and when I gotta defend, I'm gonna give a good effort and make life difficult for you. He's a free agent. Someone should definitely pay him. There's a lot of good free agent centers this year, though. So I don't know what's going to happen, but he's resurrected his career this year in Boston, and he absolutely whooped our ass this year. Um, What else we got going on here? I don't even want to do too long of a stream, but let's see. Pump fake, stop in the paint, get blocked after 3 seconds, or get Towns blocked. I don't know if this is in reference. This is from HB Greg. I don't know if this is in reference to Hart. But he tried pump faking, and like I was saying, there's several plays where he pump faked a bunch, and other centers who are worse, Kristaps right now anyway, Pistons centers, they will jump, they'll move. But Luke Cornett just kind of stays put, and just waits for you to shoot it, and then punches that shit. Game 4, Josh Hart foul trouble saved us. It wasn't that they finally found themselves like we thought. I think yes and no. I do definitely think Hart's foul trouble caused him to go to some lineups that are not his number one preference in Game 4 in the fourth quarter. But I do think in Game 3 in Game 4 in the third quarter, it was also the best Josh Hart game in terms of his usage. Like I said, like we were running, he was causing havoc by not necessarily scoring, but just pushing the pace without taking dumb shots himself. He was involved in actions off ball a shit ton. He wasn't just sitting in the corner. God damn, John Kuminga. Woo. He wasn't just sitting in the corner. He wasn't just sitting atop the key. He wasn't just crashing for rebounds. He was doing more Draymond Green type shit. And that stuff is intentional. Hart doesn't really, it's not like I was saying before, it's not really Hart's nature to just do that stuff on his own. So again, it was weird that like we just didn't do any of that, or if Tibbs was calling for it, we decided not to do it. I don't know which root cause it was, but they just it doesn't matter really, regardless of why it was bad outcome. Gary LaPlante, I don't know. Either way, one of those ways I butchered it. Seeing Cat in the paint with Mitch in the dunker spot made me want to drink. Yo, I feel you. Stay strong, my brother. The Knicks are a test of mental fortitude. Yeah, a Cat again, like just emblematic of the team's lack of discipline as a whole. Guys had an energy. They were just stupid. It wasn't until like halfway till the fourth till it was truly a beatdown that I saw the effort wane. It was mostly just like these guys were just not executing, not locked in, just not thinking, not talking, not any of that. And Cat in the paint with Mitch in the dunker, like when I saw that, all I could do was laugh. It's like our team's instinct is just to cut and get to the paint, and it's like, dudes, we just make it so much more difficult than it has to be. It's one of the reasons why I do find success despite not really being able to dribble that much and not, being some awesome ball handler scorer. It's because sometimes just standing behind the 3-point line and relocating around the 3-point line is the best thing you can do for offense to juice an offense in the modern NBA more than all that other impressive shit. And he's really good at that. And the rest of the Knicks are not so good at that sometimes. So, uh, yeah. Let's see what else. What else we got? We really let Jaylen Brown get 12 assists, man. I'm sick. I don't know what else, how much else there's to talk about. Brunson was out of rhythm. He scored well ish. He was out of rhythm because the whole team was out of rhythm. Um, we took 81 shots. They took 84. I think halfway through the third, we still had a field goal advantage. Like we had more shots attempted. We just missed a ton of them. Ended the game shooting 36%. At one point, late in the third quarter, it was down to 32.9%, which is crazy to me. That's got to be some kind of Nick playoff low. Lower field goal percentage than 3-point percentage. And that's with Josh Hart hitting 5 fucking threes, Deuce hitting 3, Brunson, McCall, Cat, OG each hitting 1. OG 1 for 12. Bridges 4 of 14. I thought everybody was like their own special type of terrible, man. It was crazy. McCall missed shots. He wasn't as big of an offender, miscommunicating on defense. Um, he had a couple of bad turnovers, but I don't know. I guess to me of the starters, he was probably the least bad, but the other 4 were fucking terrible. Their own special brand of terrible, each of them, including Jalen Brunson. Um, only people I'm really dapping up after this game is Deuce and Mitch and Pacom. That's it. Pretty simple. What else we got here? I'm biased, but it seems like we've gotten a horrible whistle all playoffs long. Yeah, I tend to agree. The Pistons series on the whole, I thought the whistle was more weird than bad. Like there were games where they called a zillion fouls on both the Pistons and the Knicks, and there were games where they called no fouls. But usually it was at least like even across the teams. This Celtics series has been shit. The reffing has been terrible. You got guys getting hit in the dick, getting cut in the face. Meanwhile, you have Celtics players drawing touch fouls past the free throw line, between the free throw line and half court consistently. In game 2, one of the worst. Zach Lowe said it was the worst play he's seen, the worst shot attempt he's seen from Jaylen Brown, where Jaylen tried to stop on a dime and grift up and draw a foul on Jalen Brunson on a mid-range jumper, and he missed it. The only reason he took that shot was because of the way that game was being reffed in game 2. He felt comfortable grifting in the clutch because the refs were allowing the Celtics and him to get away with it. And most games it's been like that, whether it's MSG or Boston. I think the Knicks don't help themselves. Cat doesn't help himself by falling and complaining every time. If you fall every time and complain every time, they're not gonna uh, give you calls. But that's Cat on offense. Mostly the Knicks shit whistle has been on defense, and um, yeah, the Celtics. I feel like the Celtics are. I tweeted about this, but I feel like the Celtics are so immensely talented, including Tatum, just on the whole, and successful that some of their grifting players some of their players' grifting tendencies get a little overlooked. Horford is right up there with Bam Adebayo in terms of just the frequency of very egregious moving screens. Jaylen Brown is very much not above hooking, grabbing, and grifting, as we've seen. It's actually when he's playing well, it's a bigger part of his game. When he's playing poorly, it's a smaller part of his game, to be honest. Um, Kristaps, I think over 30% of his points, 32% of his points this playoffs, which is not many points, but over 32% of them have come off free throws. It's pretty much the only way he scores right now is just free throw grifting. Didn't see much of it today, but he is not shy about that. I don't think Drew's a dirty player, but he is a physical player. White doesn't really flail and flop too much, but he is a fall down kind of guy. He loves driving and falling down. They're just they're not the worst flopping team in the NBA, but they're worse than people think. Neo Schmidt, there's no team in the league where Towns would shoot less threes under Tibbs. That sentence was typed as poorly as Tibbs coaching, but I understand what you mean. I agree completely. I don't think a single other coach in the NBA would have Karl Anthony Towns rostered and have him shoot threes as infrequently as he does. I don't think Tibbs particularly cares for his ability to shoot threes, which is very stupid. You can win in spite of that because Towns is extremely gifted under the rim when he's playing smart. Only player in the NBA with better touch around the rim is Nikola Jokic, as far as I'm concerned. So his value doesn't wholly depend on the threes, thankfully, but you definitely leave a lot on the table. Trailer threes for him seem like a distant memory at this point, when they should be a regular occurrence. Let's see. Hayase Eel, Tibbs, unmitigated disaster. Defy anyone defend his third quarter coaching. It was definitely, like I said, it was a disaster class on all fronts. Execution, and then, it's one of those things Tibbs always talks about, like, oh, like guys gotta execute, but like, dude, it's the playoffs. If they're not executing, and you have two really good players on the bench who are playing really good in this game, you got to make a fucking change, man. There's no excuse to not put Mitch in until the very end of the quarter, given how impactful he was in the first, given he had halftime to rest, given the Celtics don't have an answer for him on the glass. He was like on autopilot. It was like a regular season Tibbs kind of coaching game. Something I thought we were past, but I guess we're not. Yeah. What else we got? Man, I'm not really trying to talk about this shit much more. I wish I had more for y'all. I do think we're gonna come back. Uh, a lot of people didn't like Jalen Brunson's quote after we got our ass busted in Game 4, or sorry, not Game 4, Game 3, where he was like, "Oh, we subconsciously." I forget exactly what the quote was, but something to the effect of like maybe subconsciously we didn't think they were gonna fight this hard. I think it's the same thing today. I don't think it was an effort issue, but I do think they didn't have the appropriate level of attention to detail. They didn't have the detail even in the first quarter. If you think about it, they didn't really start cooking until when in the first quarter? Till Mitch and Deuce came in. Those guys are the only ones today that had the appropriate attention to detail and execution. Deuce hit some hard shots. Mitch hit his free throws, but it was more than just a point scored with those two. The process was good. So other guys just didn't lock in terms of attention to detail. So they gotta do it. They gotta go home, get a couple days of rest, go home, go to the Garden, close the shit out. I fully expect the same game plan from the Celtics. Actually, the Knicks should expect an even better game plan. If I was Joe Mazzulla, I would not play Kristaps Porzingis a single minute. He lit those minutes on fire with Kristaps. To be honest, those were a gift. Once he adjusted and got Kristaps out the game permanently, that was pretty much it. All his guys on the floor were executing, paying attention to detail. Peyton Pritchard doesn't do much, but he knows what he's there to do. He knows he's there to isolate on bigs from threes, to spot up from three, and to occasionally try to use his speed to get a couple layups. He only made 1 2-point shot. All his other makes were threes. So, Luke Cornett, attention to detail. He was a plus 20. That doesn't even do justice to how good he was. 10 points, 9 rebounds, 7 blocks is crazy for Luke Cornett in 25 minutes. Mitch, only 23 minutes, despite his impact. -9, tied for lowest on the team with Deuce. 13 rebounds, 6 offensive, 2 steals, 1 block, 1 turnover, which wasn't even his fault. It was a grenade from Mikal Bridges. So lock in, execute. We'll see where this takes us. Do some other shit tomorrow, y'all. Don't be watching highlights. Don't be on Twitter. Go hang with your families. Go shoot some hoops. Enjoy the summer. It's hot out here. It's nice. If it's rainy where you're at, like it is in the Northeast, enjoy the rain. Do something else. Knicks will come back. Promise you. Jalen Brunson doesn't have consecutive bad games. It's not a thing. He's too talented. He knows everything that we've been talking about on this post game. He knows. So fully expect him to lock in. Fully expect Tibbs to come out with some adjustments with a couple of days to look at the film. And, we'll take this thing home, give a better effort, and see it when it takes us. That's all I got for y'all. Thanks for tuning in after this depressing ass game, and we will catch you next time.